Preface: a personal approach to a German phenomenon. Think Germans like America? Think again. For over 40 years, I've witnessed Germany's mix of admiration, envy, and deep resentment firsthand, from Goethe and Buffon to Kissinger, Reagan, Trump, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, and Charlie Kirk. World War II veterans, 68ers, and everyday citizens alike whisper the same sentiment: damn Yanks. This book shows how centuries of anti-American clichés persist, shaping attitudes that often hurt Germany far more than they affect America. Why this examination of German anti-Americanism? The answer lies in my childhood. Born in 1967 in northern Germany, I was puzzled early on by a strange observation. My grandfather and my aunt argued about nearly everything: politics, society, morality. Yet on one point, they were in complete agreement. From both their mouths came regularly the same expression: damn Yanks. My grandfather had experienced World War II as a soldier in Eastern Europe. My aunt, born shortly after the war, belonged to the generation of '68. Politically, they stood diametrically opposed, right and left. Yet they shared their contempt for America completely. An early example of what political scientists would later call the horseshoe theory. The extremes meet at the ends. Sunday rituals of political education. I had the fortune of growing up in a family where Sundays featured intense debates over God and the world during coffee and cake. Grandparents, parents, uncles, and aunts sat around the table arguing with a passion that only my grandmother could end with an energetic fist slam on the table. Enough now, we're not talking politics anymore today. This experience shaped me profoundly. While my contact points with the United States of America initially came through wonderful films and series, Bonanza, Star Trek, Gunsmoke, later Lou Grant, I developed questions about what I heard at home. German Anti-Americanism, an essay on the historical roots and European peculiarities of a cultural obsession. Prologue: a European peculiarity. Dear American readers, you probably think Germans like America. After all, Germany is a NATO ally, a trading partner, and shares democratic values. You might remember positive moments: the Berlin airlift, Reagan's tear down this wall, Obama's popularity in Berlin. You have no idea how wrong you are. For 276 years, initially as a cultural phenomenon among German intellectuals, later as systematic policy of the German nation-state, German thinking has obsessively circled around America. Anti-Americanism is not a specifically German phenomenon, but nowhere in Europe has it developed as systematically, as intellectually refined, and as persistently as in Germany. Its roots reach deeper than political disagreements. They touch the foundation of German identity. What makes German anti-Americanism unique is not its intensity, but its intellectual sophistication. While French anti-Americanism often stems from cultural pride and British skepticism from imperial nostalgia, German anti-Americanism presents itself as moral and cultural superiority. Germans don't simply dislike America. They believe they understand America better than Americans understand themselves, and they are convinced they represent what America should become. This creates a fascinating paradox. The more dependent Germany becomes on America, militarily, technologically, economically, the more sophisticated its criticism becomes. German anti-Americanism is not the product of distance or ignorance, but of intimate familiarity combined with fundamental rejection. What Americans don't understand about German thinking. American foreign policy experts often misread German positions as temporary political disagreements that can be resolved through better communication or policy adjustments. They fail to recognize that German anti-Americanism operates on a much deeper level, as a cultural compensation mechanism for a belated nation that arrived too late on the world stage. Germany lost its... The Wilhelmine era saw the development of a sophisticated cultural philosophical tradition that shaped anti-American sentiment. Thinkers like Werner Sombart, Max Weber, and later Oswald Spengler framed America as a symbol of shallow modernity, contrasting it with Germany's supposed spiritual and intellectual depth. Werner Sombart's Why Is There No Socialism in the United States, 1906? Sombart argued that America's prosperity and social mobility stifled class consciousness, revealing German assumptions that proper societies should follow European socialist models. He portrayed America as the epitome of soulless capitalism, echoing romantic critiques of industrialization and monopolization as threats to cultural depth. Max Weber's The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, 1905. Weber's analysis of capitalism's cultural roots indirectly contributed to anti-Americanism by depicting America as a society where economic logic overshadowed human values, reinforcing the view of America as materialistic. Oswald Spengler's The Decline of the West, 1918 to 1923. Though published later, Spengler's ideas crystallized Wilhelmine-era thinking. He portrayed America as the winter phase of Western civilization, mechanized, spiritually exhausted, and culturally barren, a view rooted in romantic ideals of America as lacking history and depth. The concept of Kultur versus civilization. Central to German anti-Americanism was the distinction between Kultur, the National Socialist instrumentalization, 1933 to 1945. From cultural criticism to racial ideology. The Nazi rise to power in 1933 marked a crucial transformation in German anti-Americanism. What had been primarily cultural and economic criticism became systematized into a comprehensive racial and ideological worldview. For American readers, it's essential to understand that Nazi anti-Americanism didn't create new stereotypes, but rather weaponized existing German prejudices that had developed over nearly 2 centuries. Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, declared America to be the enemy of German culture and developed a sophisticated anti-American propaganda strategy that mobilized all traditional German stereotypes while adding deadly racial components. The Nazis demonstrated how cultural prejudices, when combined with state power and racial ideology, could become instruments of genocide and war. The synthesis of traditional and radical elements. Nazi America. Criticism represented a deadly synthesis of familiar German cultural themes with radical racial ideology. This combination made Nazi anti-Americanism in East Germany. Unlike in the Soviet Union, where American culture was largely unknown, East Germans could compare official anti-American propaganda with actual American cultural products viewed through West German television. Dear American readers, understanding the East German paradox. When Americans think about East Germany, the German Democratic Republic or East Germany, they typically imagine a monolithically anti-American communist state that systematically demonized the United States for 40 years. This assumption, while partially correct, misses the most fascinating aspect of East German-American relations. The simultaneous existence of official hatred and private fascination that created one of history's most complex examples of anti-Americanism. Unlike other communist states, East Germany presented a unique laboratory for studying anti-American sentiment because it existed in direct competition with West Germany, a thriving, Americanized democracy that East Germans could observe daily through Western television broadcasts that the regime was ultimately unable to block. This created an unprecedented situation where anti-American propaganda competed directly with American cultural products in the same language and cultural space. What you need to understand. East German anti-Americanism was not simply imposed from above. It was a complex negotiation between state ideology, popular culture, and genuine German anxieties about American power that persist in unified Germany today, particularly in the eastern states. The structural foundations of East German. The lost Olympus. Its scientific world dominance. The years around 1900 marked the absolute peak of German scientific dominance. An essay on scientific hegemony, collective trauma, and the birth of intellectual anti-Americanism. Prologue. The greatest irony in the history of science. On July 20, 1969, Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. In NASA's control center in Huntsville, Alabama, One man with a German accent cheered particularly loudly. Wernher von Braun, German-American aerospace engineer, 1912 to 1977, the father of the Saturn V rocket. 24 years earlier, the same man had fired V-2 rockets at London. Now he had helped America achieve the greatest triumph in human history. This scene embodies the greatest irony in the history of science. German geniuses, driven out by Hitler, created America's scientific world dominance. What Germany had built up over 150 years, Hitler destroyed in 12 years, and America inherited the ruins. But the true tragedy lies not in this loss, but in Germany's inability to get over it. Instead of acknowledging American superiority and learning from it, German intellectuals developed a systematic compensation strategy. If we're no longer the best scientists, then at least we're the better people. This psychological compensation is the deepest origin of modern German anti-Americanism, a trauma that disguises itself as moral superiority. The Pride, 1800 to 1933. Germany, land of poets, thinkers, and discoverers. The rise to scientific Olympus. When Carl Friedrich Gauss, German mathematician, 1777 to 1855, Prince of Mathematics, published his Disquisitiones Arithmeticae in 1807, he not only founded modern number theory, he ushered in the century of German scientific world dominance. From his Göttingen professorship, a revolution radiated that would encompass all disciplines. Göttingen was no coincidence. Founded in 1737 as an English university on German soil during the personal union between Hanover and Great Britain, it combined German thoroughness with British empiricism. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, German philosopher and mathematician, 1646 to 1716, had already laid the foundations in Hanover. His calculus, developed parallel to Newton, the paradox of German public broadcasting's America coverage. The paradox between honoring American nature conservation pioneer work and systematic negative portrayal of social realities reveals a fundamental credibility problem of German public broadcasting. Introduction. The double standard of Germany's state-funded media. Germany's public broadcasting system, funded through mandatory household fees, similar to a TV license tax that every German household must pay regardless of whether they watch public TV, presents a paradoxical image of America. While nature documentaries celebrate the United States as a land of spectacular landscapes and pioneering conservation ideas, social developments and life realities are systematically negated and distorted. Note for American readers. German public broadcasting, ARD, ZDF, regional stations like SWR, operates differently from American public media. Every German household must pay approximately 18.36 euros monthly, approximately 220 euros annually, in mandatory broadcasting fees, Rundfunkbeitrag, regardless of income or viewing habits. This system generates over $8.5 billion yearly, more than the entire budget of NPR and PBS combined. Unlike voluntary donations that fund American public media, this is essentially a tax. John Kornblum, 4 decades of transatlantic warnings. What makes John Kornblum's statements over more than 3 decades so remarkable? The consistency of the message. From the 1990s to today. John Kornblum died on December 21, 2023 in Nashville, Tennessee, at the age of 80. Emily Haber, Germany's former ambassador to the United States, honored him in her obituary as an exceptional diplomat and the memory of transatlantic relations. For more than a quarter century after his ambassadorial service, he remained the other United States ambassador in Berlin, a constant voice reminding Germany of its responsibilities. Kornblum's death marks the end of an era. His decades of warnings that Germany must finally assume responsibility commensurate with its size proved prophetic. The 2022 Ukraine war brutally confirmed his warnings about German naivety toward authoritarian systems and lack of defense preparedness. A man on a mission, wrote one obituary. His mission was Germany's strategic advancement in a world where he remained convinced of the indivisibility of security for the Western alliance. Germany needs this voice today more than ever. In the history of German-American relations since 1945, few figures have so persistently and for so long articulated the American perspective on Germany as John Kornblum. Born in 1943, the former United States ambassador to Germany. Epilogue. The impossible love, yet a strong bond. The preceding chapters have portrayed Germany's obsession with America, from Goethe's ironic "You have it better" (1827) to Vance's Orwellian criticism (2025), sometimes in exaggerated, even dramatic terms, to sharpen the contours of the belated nation and its traumas. Anti-Americanism certainly pulses through German debates, from moral superiority to longing for an ideal America. Yet the story is not only one of conflict and grievance. The transatlantic relationship, asymmetric as it is also a story of success. In the United States, German companies flourish. BMW in Spartanburg, South Carolina employs 10,000 people. Siemens operates in 50 states with 45,000 employees, and BASF runs major operations in Louisiana with 7,000 jobs. Conversely, United States companies shake Germany. Apple's campus in Munich, Tesla's Gigafactory in Brandenburg employing 12,000, Microsoft's cloud services powering 83% of German IT infrastructure according to Germany's Federal Office for Information Security in 2024. Economically intertwined, both countries create prosperity. Bilateral trade reached over $250 billion in 2024, according to Statista. Militarily, NATO, with United States bases like Ramstein, remains the backbone of security. Culturally, both inspire each other. Hollywood loves Wagner. Berlin celebrates Beyoncé. Yes, the impossible love persists. Germany criticizes, envies, and needs America. America responds with a mixture of patience, frustration, and occasional directness, as Vance's Munich speech demonstrated. Yet in factories, offices, and laboratories, both work together successfully, not without friction, but with pragmatism. Perhaps this is the true lesson of this 276-year history. Traumas shape rhetoric, but cooperation shapes the future. German anti-Americanism will remain as a cultural constant, as identity builder, as compensation mechanism for historical defeats. But it will continue to be countered by the reality of a functioning partnership that benefits both sides. Maybe Germany will never understand America, and America will never care to understand why. This may be the best thing that could happen to both. Paradoxically, strength lies in this asymmetry. Germany can nurture its obsession,